Kickoff of the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council's Resiliency webinar series. My name is Rebecca Harp, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council. The Regional Planning Council serves 6 counties in the region, including Charlotte, Collier, Glades, Hendry, Lee, and Sarasota counties. We truly appreciate your attendance and your interest in learning more about the critical role that the RPC and the University of Florida play in advancing resiliency across the region. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Esma Oda, our Deputy Director and Manager, to introduce herself and the presenters, as well as a brief overview of the Resiliency Project.
Thank you, Rebecca, for that great interview, and thank you everyone for being here with us today. So as Rebecca mentioned, this project is a regional resiliency project where the Regional Planning Council will be providing planning and coordination and technical assistance along with capacity building. We'll also, in this webinar series, create a platform and a forum for collaboration and communication featuring subject matter experts sharing best practices and technical assistance. And without further ado, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, Jess, Ramona, David, Kim, and Carla. And then we have also Monica online.
Great, thank you. I'm Jessica Riles. I'm the Agriculture and Sustainable Food Systems Agent with UF-IFAS Extension down in Collier County.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Outerbridge. I work in Lee County, and I'm the County Extension Director and work in Sustainable Food Systems and Natural Resources.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ramona Madison Hector. I'm a Regional Specialized Agent in Urban Sustainability, and I have the opportunity to work across the Southwest District, which is 11 counties according to our extension map.
Good morning. My name is Monica Wilson. I am a Florida Navigator, but also the Coastal Project Debris Coordinator for Operation TRAP. And as this Florida Navigator, I have counties Collier and Charlotte.
Hi, my name is Carla Brisotto. I'm Assistant Professor at the School of Architecture.
You can be here.
I was just thinking that.
Just me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
So again, I'm Assistant Professor at the School of Architecture and Applied Design Lead at the Florida Institute for Built Environment Resilience, both at the University of Florida.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Morgan. I'm an extension economist with the Southwest Florida Research and Education Center located in Immokalee, Florida.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So within this project, the Regional Resiliency Project, the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council will work with our sister agency as well of the regional planning councils, as well as organizations within the region working on resiliency. We will also create a GeoHub. We have already held a forum to kick off this project. And throughout this webinar series, this is the first meeting in this series. We will have 2 additional meetings that will be announced. And without further ado, if you'd like to go ahead and start presenting.
Wonderful. Are you guys going to share the screen? Great. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Happy to answer any question. There's a bunch of us here. If you have any questions while we're presenting, please ask them in the chat. We will pause it at the end for some questions also, and hopefully all stick around. We're going to move through the slides quite quickly. We've got a bunch of slides and a bunch of projects. We're kind of just skimming the surface. So if you have any deeper questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us offline or to our offices. Next slide, please. So as part of the University of Florida, we receive federal funding. So our programs are available to all. And this is a slide that we have to show as part of our affirmative action statement. Next slide, please. So I'm going to ask the question and anybody answer in the chat if you'd like. Are you guys, I'm sure you are all somewhat familiar with extension, but what is extension? Do you guys know where it was established, where it came from, and why we have it? So just answer in the chat. And next slide, please. So I'm going to answer the question for you here if you haven't answered in the chat yet. So, so the Land Grant Bill in 1857 was a creation to create agricultural colleges in the US. And essentially, the Land Grant Bill granted land in most of the states, almost all the states, where the land was granted to a university. And as part of that, the universities had to have extension in all of the counties within that state. And initially, it was mainly in family consumer sciences and agriculture, but has expanded to many, many programs. So extension is your state university in your state carrying out the research and education. So it's kind of a model that has the education from the university being delegated to the communities to help with the community improvement, to support community development, and also gathering research at the community level to help inform the kind of ivory tower of the university within the state. So it's essential, an essential partnerships that a lot of the counties in Florida participate in. We have 64 offices, 12 research centers throughout the state. Next, please. And the purpose of it is to teach such branches of learning that are related to agriculture and mechanic arts, such as a manner legislators of the states may respectively prescribe in order to promote liberal and practical education in the industrial classes of several pursuits and professions in life. Again, it started in 1862 and it's adapted and developed as we urbanize and as our states are changing. So there's a lot of different programs and a lot of different areas that you'll see today. Next, please. So we essentially provide non-formal education and learning activities to people throughout the country. There's an extension network that we are all a part of at the national level and even internationally, where we work with countries and extensions within foreign countries. Next, please. Again, it's a partnership between the federal, the state, and county governments through the USDA and NOAA, UF-IFAS extension in the state of Florida. Next, please. So here's a good map of all of the offices. Again, we are science-based, so it's reliable, practical information delivery. Usually, all of our programs are delegated by local needs assessments that are carried out and logic models developed to do a progression from short-term, mid-term to long-term impacts of that, and those are measured so that we can see the efficacy of it and also adapt as the community needs change. You can see all the different expertise: agricultural, natural resources, horticulture, family consumer sciences, formerly the family nutrition program. That was our SNAP education, which is not no longer exists. We're hoping that we can get more kind of and adapt the SNAP education within our programs, and it's kind of been absorbed by some of our food systems programs. 4-H and youth development, really important program for developing youth leadership and ag participation. Sea Grant and Marine Science, which you'll hear some from later, 4-H youth development, and community resource development. Next, please. So food systems and agriculture. I'll let Jess get started here and I'll pass it off.
Sure. Next slide, please. So again, my name is Jessica Riles. I'm down in Collier County. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the ag and local food system, sustainable food system program that David and I work on. So ag is really big in the state of Florida and even within our counties, as many of you already know. We have huge farms that generate not just a lot of commodities and crops, but also jobs and ancillary activities. So we're looking at $4.89 billion in gross regional product, and that includes the Southwest Florida region that the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council oversees. 15% of contribution is to the gross regional product overall, and Kim's going to get a little bit more into the economics of agriculture and why it's so important to our region. And based on a UF study, it's actually estimated that every dollar invested in ag research and education extension, which is what we do and what Kim does at the research center, there's actually a $20 return in that investment. So if you want to learn more about ag and food systems in Florida, you can click on that QR code. Next slide, please. So some of the actual programs that we work on range, widely depending on the needs of the community. So we're looking at small farm and agribusiness development, how to implement BMPs, whether that's a requirement or whether it's just a suggestion for best management practices within the commodity. Agroecology, which is definitely an increasing need and demand in our area. People are very interested in learning more about agroecology and how to implement these things on their farm. We also work on farm food safety training and certificates. So FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act, is a legislation from the federal government that requires growers to have a certificate in food safety training. So we offer things like that. And that's just one of many, many certifications that we offer to the industry. We also look at local food system evaluation, and David's done a lot of work on the big picture, kind of seeing all of the moving parts from growers to distributors to policymakers and everything in between. Of course, food policy, we've sat on food policy councils to kind of give agriculture a voice at the table. Water conservation quality issues, that's something that is across the board in every industry and affects every industry. So everyone needs to be at the discussion table with that. We look at really basic things like production methods, which is probably what a lot of people think of when they think of an agricultural extension agent. So looking at how to grow certain crops or certain plants. Of course, pest and disease monitoring and evaluation. So people calling all the time saying, what's on my plant, or what, can I do for this fungal disease on my plant? And also, especially in terms of disaster assessment and preparedness, we're doing monitoring and evaluation on that. Livestock production, we have a huge cow-calf operations throughout the state and even in our Southwest Florida district. So we have someone like Lindsay Wiggins, who's our regional livestock agent, who addresses issues for production cow-calf operations. Of course, the Master Naturalist program, which is a volunteer program that they're wonderful, wonderful volunteers and ambassadors for UF-IFAS Extension. They become experts in all things plant knowledge. And then we have things like the Southwest Florida Small Farmers Network, which brings together small producers in the region to kind of share, again, best management practices, make business deals, and just kind of create a sounding board and network for one another. Next slide, please. So how do we do it? How do we do all of these programs that are happening all throughout the region? And the ones I mentioned are just the tiny, tiny little bit. So really at the core of it, we're connectors, we're educators, we're problem solvers. We start with the local needs of the community. We're always doing needs assessment, which is why it's very important for us to interact with different stakeholders and different groups to kind of find out what do we need to be focusing on as the extension expert. We do it through one-on-one field consultations, phone, text, emails, Twitter, Facebook, social media. However we can get in touch and communicate and contact people is how we're going to get the information and the message out. We also do a lot of virtual programming. We focus on publications, newsletters, just kind of, again, getting in front of the community. And as David mentioned, really our goal is to translate that research, that science, into things that are hands-on, practical, and relevant. So our big motto, and I know 4-H's big motto, is learning by doing. And that's very, very important. You can see the folks out in the field here learning about beekeeping. We also leverage connections and partnerships. So that could be in schools, nonprofits, local government, industries, folks like yourselves, to kind of, again, be those connector and conveners where it's appropriate. And then we train volunteers, and we train our youth as well in things related to agriculture, natural resources, and family and consumer sciences, because this has a multiplying effect. So we're not just teaching the people that we directly interact with, but that message spreads on. And our goal ultimately is to support behavior change for folks. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. I think you're passing it off to me here.
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to talk about the Florida Navigator program, and Monica will be chiming in towards the middle of our presentation. So this program is operated through the Florida Climate Institute and includes Sea Grant agents. I've been kindly adopted by the Sea Grant Network since I work in resiliency and sustainability in the Tampa Bay region. Next slide. So this is a map of the sites that we have in the state of Florida, and we'll just give you a little bit of project background, tell you what we're doing in terms of resiliency projects statewide across the CEDAR network. And at the bottom of the slide, you just have an explanation of what CEDAR means. It's the Community Disaster Resilience Zone. And then we'll just cover a little bit of who our technical partners are and what they've been able to help us do for the communities that have been designated. Next slide. So a CEDAR-side community disaster resilience zones, these were designated in 2023 by FEMA, and then we've seen a little bit of a shift in terms of that designation and how it's been operationalized. So when initially mentioned, these CEDAR sites were falling into multiple geographical boundaries, so to speak. So they might have been part of a county or a city. The second year, they were supposed to be parts of tribes. We haven't seen that materialize, but we've been connected through US Census tracts and typically these types of geographic boundaries. They were intended to provide focus for financial and technical assistance, primarily for under-resourced communities, to help them, if you would, get some additional leverage for federal technical assistance programs like BRIC and like the EPA Community Change Technical Grant. So we know that that has shifted a little bit in the federal landscape, but we've still been able to provide assistance to these designated communities. Across the state, we have 32 CEDARs in 15 counties. Here in the Southwest, we have 10. I wrote 8 here because we have some that are more active than others, but we do have 10 sites across the Southwest district, and Southwest meaning the Southwest Extension District, which covers both the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council and the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council boundaries. Next slide. So again, the project was launched in October of 2023 when the designation came through. We were launched in Florida in January of 2024. We are not working on this alone. We do have navigators in other states. So that includes North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Georgia is the intended site for a climate innovation center, and I'll show you on the next slide how that gets linked into the overall project. The project manager is GEOS Institute. They're a West Coast-based institution. Partners in the other states are the Georgia Conservancy, Rebuild North Carolina, and Furman Institute, so Furman University. And then those are some of our partners on the slides. So Alloy Fundraising, INCOR, Resilient Cities, Catalyst, and we've been adding others as time has gone on. Next slide. So the Navigator mission statement, we are working technically really alongside the communities to address their current and future climate needs. But when you look at the diagram that GEOS has here, which is a Climate Ready America, which is I want to say platform for how they intend this work to happen. The intention is that there will be other Navigator networks in other parts of the nation, and we have been somewhat of a pilot rollout for this particular effort. So navigators do connect to the climate innovation centers. Navigators are able to work with their local communities. And you see on this slide here that the goal is to activate momentum, if you would, towards building long-term resilience. So meeting communities where they are in their trajectory to resiliency and helping them move that forward. So that's the overall goal of the project. Next slide. So how do we do the work that we're doing as navigators across 4 different states? So definitely it's people. I think as you've seen on the slides before, Extension, as David mentioned, does have a presence in multiple counties throughout the state of Florida. So being people focused and people connected is a huge part of the success we've been able to have with the CEDAR project. We're bringing resources and tools to the communities along with technical providers, but we're also doing education and training. So just like this webinar today, we've reached out to all of our communities, we've provided webinars, we've connected them to technical assistance providers, and we've done that through in-person site visits, through virtual connections, and we've also done some video stories, and there's a link at the end of the slide deck for you to access that in your free time. So just gives you an idea of the various components in terms of us reaching out to and assisting the CEDAR designated sites. Next slide. So in year one, as you've seen before, there were 32 communities, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to contact and engage all those communities so we can check the box for our project manager that we'd made contact with these communities, we knew where they were willing to be part of this process. Because I think one of the challenges we saw in year one was the designations came through, we talked to FDEM, and we weren't quite sure what we were all doing. So getting connected to all of the communities and making sure they knew what a designation meant, what they expected. So all of that got sorted out, I would say, in year one. So that's been a huge lift for all of the navigators across all 4 states. And then, of course, we were meeting with the technical assistance providers and getting a sense of the types of products and skills that they could assist our communities with. And I think a huge part of year one, too, was assessing the CEDAR fit. So some of these sites, even though we had multiples, they didn't quite fit what you would think of in terms of resiliency projects. Some were near ballparks, some were near airports, some were near just field sites. So they didn't actually have a community connection per se when we think about that resiliency overall. So in year two, we've gotten a little bit better in terms of our metrics, in terms of our communications, and in terms of bringing on new technical partners as well. So Alloy Fundraising, as I mentioned before, is one of the partners that we brought on in year two that did not exist in year one. So again, using the feedback from our communities and their needs to help us tool the program and make sure that it's relevant. And in year three, we're continuing to refine and update our service menu, but also looking to address complex projects. So compound flooding is one of those things that our communities and our navigators have been trying to sort through. Next slide. So here is just a little graphic on the types of resources and tools we've had through our CEDAR project. So navigators have been offering grant writing workshops, community resilience index. We've covered the steps to resilience with communities. We've also done some community engagement workshops, whether they're in person or virtual. And as I mentioned, we do offer the services and skill set of the technical providers. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Monica here.
Thank you, Ramona. As Ramona was saying, all these great resources we've provided. So I'm just going to go over a quick review of what we've done over the years as far as how we've helped our communities. So as we mentioned, you saw all the numbers of CEDARS communities in our state. So as during year one, we had a total of 24 CEDARS community action plans. 4 of our CEDARS communities actually secured FEMA building resilience or BRIC DTA grants. And then 2 of our CEDARS communities also received flood assistance from Project Encore, which Ramona spoke about at the beginning of this presentation. Next slide. As for year 2, again, we had Encore modeling for our communities, which provided a comprehensive flood resilience analysis for each of our communities in Homestead and Fellsmar. And then Alloy Fundraising, we had the grant prospecting and proposal review for the Clearwater, Bay County, and Homestead. And this included things such as resilience hubs and septic to sewer conversions for our communities. Next slide, please. So as for year 2, what we've accomplished, we started a monthly newsletter. And as Ramona mentioned, we are also conducting virtual webinars, and we, as the navigators, send these opportunities out via email to all of our communities and all of our contacts, so they are aware. Again, we've provided workshops such as the grant writing workshop, a community resilience index workshop, and then also the community rating system. And then we also have engagement with community-based organizations. And the picture on the right shows our October newsletter. Again, we try to send these out monthly. They provide not only what we've done currently, but also any resources or any sources of funding that we have seen that we think our communities will benefit from, and then any upcoming workshops or opportunities that our communities can access. And those are all listed on this monthly workshop. Next slide, please. Monthly newsletter, excuse me. So what's next? So the Florida Navigator Program, as Ramon has mentioned, serves as an entry point for discussions for vulnerable communities. And so the statewide team shares ideas and successes and lessons learned with each other. So we can basically brainstorm from all of our navigators. We meet monthly and talk about successes, like I said, and then also not issues, but just how we can overcome some of the things that we are coming through with our communities, because each community is different. Each community has its own vulnerability assessments. Each community has its own plans. And then obviously with the changing federal priorities and the funding sources and partnerships, we are trying to navigate that for our communities and make it easier for them to secure funding or share any possible funding available for them. And so now we're also going to shift the focus from Cedars adjacent and or ready communities. So we're hoping not to continue not just focusing on Cedar communities, but also hopefully helping those that are around it or adjacent to it, to those communities and that are ready for help. Next slide, please. So this is just a slide that shows our Florida Navigator team. They are all over the state of Florida, as Ramona mentioned. We each have different counties and sections that we all have that we are communicating with, but we are all here to help. So if you see one of us or want to talk to one of us, we all know each other very well and we can put you directly in contact with the right person. But please do not hesitate to contact us if you feel like we can help you with any of your resilience plans or actions to help make your communities more resilient. Next slide. And as Ramona mentioned, the video to our Florida story the link is right there on this slide. You can contact Ramona with any questions and she can also help lead you to the right person to talk to. Thank you. That's all for us.
All right, thank you. Again, my name is Kim Morgan and I'm an extension economist. So I'm going to share this space here with Jess as well, because we've done quite a bit of work along with Rebecca and Asma and David and all the other folks on this call. So we just want to sort of share with you some of the research perspectives, research we've done and extension and outreach we've done from the perspective of an economist. Next slide, please. So I would normally ask by show of hands how many folks have seen the news that's where our Federal Department of Health has released a new food pyramid. And this is important because in economics, we have consumers, we have producers, and then we have what the government does in respect to food production and consumption and all the way through from farm to fork. So what's interesting about this picture I wanted to share with you is almost everything on this food pyramid is actually grown somewhere in Florida and a lot of it in Southwest Florida. So I don't think we have an official banana market, but we can grow pretty much or harvest pretty much everything in this picture. So next slide, please. Moving from the government's perspective on what makes up a good, healthy, nutritious approach to eating is the perspective of the growers. So this is just a sort of brief insight here into what conversations I've had with our specialty crop growers. This is going to be your fresh fruit and vegetable growers in Southwest Florida. And I asked them to do a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. Strengths and weaknesses are within the organization itself, and then threats and opportunities are sort of outside of the control of the grower. So I wanted to share this with you in terms of answering the question of resiliency from the perspective of our growers in Southwest Florida. They have had and continue to maintain long-term strengths and success in both production and marketing of fresh fruits and vegetables. We rank number 1, 2 in pretty much every fruit and vegetable produced here in the U.S. And a lot of it travels clear from here all the way up to Canada and anywhere else east of the Mississippi River and internationally as well. So we've had a strong and long history of success in producing and marketing our fruits and vegetables in our 7-county region. As a result, we've had some pretty good access to credit markets because the bank is always a part of any production operation, whether it's for equipment, new technology, or it's just supporting payments to their workers as the workforce comes in until the payments come back in for their crops. Some of their concerns or their weaknesses, they're concerned about the lack of research dollars that are focused on production and post-harvest. They're, of course, in Southwest Florida, if there's a bug or a disease or a fungus, we've got it. We have a year-round growing season, but we don't have any real chill hours in Southwest Florida, although it's proving me wrong here the last day or two. But that's what usually knocks back some of that pest and disease pressure. So those are some concerns they have. And there's been very little or no incentivization of the local food systems, which we'll see in Jess's part of the talk that's been working hard to rectify that and address that concern. Outside threats or international acreage operations, we all have heard about the trade changes and challenges that have been going on currently, but even as far back as to the 1995 NAFTA agreement, which opened free trade across North America. Concerns about access to affordable labor, concerns about food safety. One of our previous speakers talked about the Food Safety Modernization Act that requires growers to go through a pretty extensive third-party investigation to make sure that the produce that they're growing and packing and shipping is managed, correctly to prevent any food safety concerns. There's really no backup in terms of sharing the market risk. If a crop fails, if a hurricane or when a hurricane comes through, our growers are wiped out and there's no insurance product readily available for most of our crops. So that leaves them very exposed to any kind of weather disasters, which we experience quite often in Southwest Florida. They're excited about new opportunities. They're excited about different production methods. Jess mentioned best management practices. This speaks to, making sure we apply just the right amount needed by the plants at the right time, at the right location, under the right weather conditions of our fertilizers and pesticides, to sort of minimize any runoff to the water supply, which we all share across the state. And then growing global demand for fresh produce, and that was certainly evidenced in the new food pyramid. Next slide, please. Switching from producers, what are consumers saying? So this is a little tidbit of some research I've done at the request of growers. Like, what do they want? What do consumers want us to tell them about production? Because, the attention span is limited. And so some research I've done with consumer surveys is we've discovered that they're very concerned about the safety of U.S. foods, not so much U.S. food price trends. Now, this data is a little bit dated, but it was around the last time we had a pretty heavy recession in the country. So, but it really wasn't food price trends, whether they're trending up or down. They're very concerned about food safety relative to their trusted network. And they're definitely looking for food relationships in response to diet-related disease incidences for both themselves and their immediate family members. So when we talk about direct food marketing, a lot of the growth and demand in farmers markets or community-supported ag ventures where the shared risk between the growers and the consumers exists, we've seen that demand stay pretty steady and even increase even post-COVID when people were really trying to buy more directly because they're trying to control what they can, and that's what they put in their bodies and where they source it. They're trying to find someone in the food supply chain that they know, that they like, and that they trust. Next slide, please. Looking at repeat customers, anybody in marketing will tell you it's not the first sale that's the most expensive. It's making sure that they come back and buy again and again. And so those customers that tend to continue to come and buy directly from growers, from ranchers, from fishers, tend to be immigrants. They tend to prepare more meals at home. And they tend to have more concern with weight gain, which is, of course, a sort of an American story these days. They're concerned if they have an obesity condition with either themselves or their spouse or their kids, they're a lot more likely to expend that effort to go purchase at farm stands and actually purchase more at a farmer's market. So again, this was information the producers just wanted us to find out from our consumers in the South. Next slide, please. So how does this influence resiliency? And Jess mentioned we're looking to change behavior. As economists, we're looking to change behavior under conditions of scarcity of resources, which is usually land, labor, and capital, and then constraints like income. Next slide, please. This is a slide put together, or a graph put together by the USDA looking at farm survival. We've all heard about the loss of farmland across the country and certainly in Florida, where the opportunity cost to a grower in Southwest Florida could be as much as $200,000, $300,000 an acre should they sell that land to a developer. So what encourages, a farm to find ways to continue to survive in these conditions? And that was very distinctly recognized that if a grower not only does a traditional crop that they sell through brokers, but they also invest time and energy in marketing direct to consumers, they actually had a higher farm survival rate over time. So this is a message I take to our growers to make sure they're monitoring their financials, keeping good records, to make sure they think about diversifying that supply chain. And by that, I mean not just selling to a wholesaler or a distributor, but considering selling more through a direct consumer model like a CSA or a farmer's market. And of course, to do the marketing activities, they really need some support. And that's where this team on the call here have banded together and find neat ways to do that. Soil health and water efficiency are all very important to all of us and an ongoing concern here in the US as we have continued to farm and achieve higher yields across the country, but here specifically in the Southwest part of the state of Florida. But at what cost, and where do we have to start remediating soils to address the concerns of higher nutrient quality in our fruits and vegetables? Adaptability of the workforce. We've all heard about AI and technology, and that's not been something that has passed by the ag industry, and definitely producers are looking for ways to find a workforce that can use these AI-driven tools, make decisions from database analyses that come from those types of tools. It requires a different level of training for our workforce in the ag. And that greater connection with community and brand awareness. And again, I think as much as we've seen the rise of social media over my career or just the internet itself, I think people are still really looking for that face-to-face relationship. And I think that's going to continue. As much as AI may drive us to be more online with some questions, I think when it comes to what we eat and put in our bodies, I think that resiliency aspect there is, how do I know where it's grown and can I find a connection? Next slide, please. So in general, in terms of what we are messaging to growers is sort of find your why when it comes to considering selling beyond the farm gate and involving yourself in marketing tasks like pricing your product for direct consumer purchasing. That's a whole nother method. Typically, they just take the price that the wholesaler gives them. With direct to consumer, they have to figure out their own price. They have to figure out how to promote their product. They have to decide what product form they may offer. It's just fresh. Do they want to can it? Do they want to make it into a bread or what have you? So they have to figure out how to package that product in a way that consumers want it. And then where are they going to sell it at? And how much time is that going to take and who's going to do it? So there's a lot of interesting questions there that growers have. And that's why we work as a team to help answer those questions for them. Next slide. This is a brochure we put out specific to the economic impact of agriculture in our 7-county area for our Southwest Florida Center. This is a little bit dated information here, but you can see 31% of all acres in Southwest Florida were involved in ag activities. I'm going to guess this number has gone down a bit since 2017. But farm gate sales, a lot of people don't realize that fruit and vegetable generate over $1 billion in sales, and this is just in our 7-county region in the state of Florida. I think a lot of people understand that it's a very high dollar business, very risky, but it also has got some very high dollar values. Of course, their production costs are high as well, but for the state as a whole, our growers have made a very big investment in our Southwest area. Next slide, please. Kermit always has something good to say, but we all want to have a plate that looks like the one on the right, but we all know that takes a lot of effort, whether it's sourcing it or putting it together or convincing family members to eat that type of food. I think most of us on the call would think it looks delicious, but next slide. Data tells us there are some challenges. Again, this is some USDA economic research survey data, and it talks about the estimated average US consumption compared to recommendations from 1970 up till 2018. And in general, according to this research in 2019, just 12% and 10% of surveyed adults met fruit and vegetable intake requirements. Just 12% of adults in the US met the fruit and vegetable intake requirements that are recommended by the CDC. So I always tell my growers, if we could get folks to eat as many fruit and vegetables as are recommended by the CDC or the Department of Health, we would all be making good money and not have to worry about running out of product here grown here in the US or in the Southwest. And as you can see over time, it's actually gotten a little bit worse. Go ahead. Next slide, please. Again, just another piece of information on this is from the Produce for Better Health Foundation. This talks about America's fruit, vegetable, and juice consumption from 2004 to 2020. And it shows that Americans have actually decreased their fruit and vegetable eating by nearly 10% since 2004. So we're kind of going the other direction. And this gave us a lot of sort of researchable moments as we work with our growers and marketers. Go ahead, next slide, please. So this is where we kind of kick it into how do you handle direct marketing when you're a producer and you're very good at producing what you do, and then but you don't have to or have time and energy to sell outside of the farm gate beyond just the wholesaler. So we have some data that tells us you really need to focus on your engagement with that consumer purchaser, and the cost effectiveness of those sales promotions that the grower undertakes to be in the direct marketing channel is meant to influence expenditure levels, so how much they spend per visit, and then the frequency of those customers coming back. And that's definitely related to the consumer's willingness to engage with that product. And over time, we're seeing this continue to nudge upwards, even sort of post-COVID. Last slide, next slide, please. So in terms of what we tell growers to do that are interested in direct marketing, we're asking sort of a three-way approach to the promotion part of marketing process. Attract new customers with your promotion tools, adapt those tools to encourage existing consumers to purchase more frequently. An example of this was Melon one of our big watermelon growers actually brought an influencer, a food and nutrition influencer who had tens of thousands of viewers, brought them on farm and had them do a piece on how watermelons are grown here in Florida and what that looks like and how people, how much work goes into making watermelons here in the state of Florida. So that's a great example of a large producer engaging in that direct marketing strategy, and just encouraging consumers to spend more per visit. And I'll pause for a moment, let Jess talk a little bit about the Southwest Fresh program that she and others on the call have helped put together.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I think Kim's presentation does a great job at explaining through her research that to be, a modern farmer, you really just have to go beyond growing the food. Our growers are exceptional at growing fruits and vegetables, but they now have to be marketing experts. And so way back in 2017, when Hurricane Irma came through the state, the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council had an opportunity to work on resiliency issues related to small and medium-sized farmers. So we and others on the call, Kim, David, started this relationship with them that basically looked at how do we make small and medium-sized farms resilient moving forward. One of the projects that came out of it was this idea of a direct-to-marketing strategy. So think Fresh from Florida, the state marketing brand, but regional. And really this Southwest Florida Fresh came from the growers. We had over 40 growers involved in the development of this program. And you can go check out the website. It's www.swflfresh.com. And it's just a way to connect our consumers and our producers. The direct to market folks, so the folks that are selling directly from the farm to the consumer, either through farm stands, farmers markets, restaurants, and that sort of thing, tend to benefit more directly for this because our large producers tend to grow through the wholesale market. But they also, folks like Littman participated and said that, this is a useful avenue for not only connecting producers and consumers, but also helping the public understand that we are a fruit and vegetable basket of the United States. And it's important that we promote that's what we grow here. So this is an ongoing project. It's grower created really, but it's a great partnership too between the Regional Planning Council and UF-IFAS Extension, because we really wouldn't be able to do this program and continue this program if it wasn't for that partnership. So that's just kind of an overview. And Kim, I'll kick it back to you.
But next slide, please. I think, Jess, you put the slide
That's
in.
me.
Is this? Oh, it's David. Yeah, that's got a David look to it. So
Yeah, just as an example of kind of some of the things that we do post-disaster, because we identified one of those weaknesses as being the potential impacts of disaster. UF impact analysis has been evaluating storms pretty much since Irma, and utilizing all of that data to help engage. At the bottom here, you see we go to surveys and reports. We'll go out into the field and kind of survey and report, and that informs all the previous wind speed, precipitation, flood depth data, as well as the known kind of crops, livestock, and aquaculture production. And that's kind of run through a model so that we can provide to agencies what we think the extent of the damages are on immediate crop and livestock. For infrastructure, we still don't have enough data, and there's still not enough good data to kind of see what the infrastructure costs are, but definitely on immediate crops, how quickly it takes to turn them around, what stage the crops are in. We can get a good example of that and get monies to the producers a lot faster than we used to help make up that gap in their funding. The regional planning council has been really great at kind of working with us on the evaluations after storms, and then a long-term resiliency with that as well. Next slide. I think it's Carla now. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me if I wear my headphones? Yep. Okay. I'll try to be quick. All my slides are very visual because of the kind of things we do. But I'm open for questions at the end and follow-up emails if you have, if we don't have time here. So I'm part of this institute, the Florida Institute for Built Environmental Resilience. As I said, it's at the College of Design, Construction and Planning. We've been working a lot with IFAS throughout the years. I'll tell more about the institute later on. Can we go to the next? Well, this is all the people involved in our institute. There's different research faculty or research staff. Next. So I just want to start from this idea that we approach research looking at these kind of problems. We think at Florida, mostly outside of Florida, and personally, when I moved to Florida, this is what I was thinking about. I'm going to move in this sunny spot. Everybody was inviting me until next. I discovered, next slide, that it was actually more than just a sunny place. A lot of hurricanes. I had no whatsoever knowledge about what I was supposed to do to prepare for that. And I think my little story represents the stories of many people thinking at Florida. Next. So as a research institute, what we want to do is looking at that and acknowledging this double face of our state as an opportunity to improve. So not ignoring the problem, but actually solving it or addressing it and adapting it to it, knowing that in this process there are innovative solutions that can arise. Next. We work by looking at these kind of three approaches as UF and as IFAS, as we explore through technologies. We outreach communities to our very special kind of approach, which is design thinking and visualization. And we also produce knowledge by growing through education, but also training. Next. So our institute was founded in 2018. The idea was to create a space where different disciplines within the design world could, collaborate together. We are talking about construction management, architecture, urban and regional planning, interior design, landscape architecture. There's also the program of history preservation and sustainability. Next. That means that in our own institute, we do have different research faculties, as you said, as you saw earlier on, representing all of these fields and department I mentioned with different labs. And this is kind of a number of programs we are offering that are continuously evolving. Next. We work really place-based, meaning we try to work with communities and towns across Florida. This is just an example of places we've been working with. Next. So I'll give you just now some examples of each of these approaches. So starting from technologies. Next. We do have an initiative called the Florida Digital Twin that was based on a prototype sort of testbed initiative called Jack's Twin. Next. The Florida Twin, it's an initiative that University of Florida at large is pursuing to create this, Florida state model that brings the physicality of our state into a digital model, and in that model being able to foreseen, future prediction and therefore lead to informed decision making to change our place, to adapt, as I said earlier. In this initiative, a lot of colleges are involved, including Fiber as one of the leading institutions. Next. The Jack's Twin, which was the basis for this new initiative, has developed this, virtual model of Jacksonville, embedding into this model different data sets, drawing from health, housing, infrastructure, and environment. We use the Ian hurricane as the hazard to test our data and how it impacts the environment. You will see in that scenario visualization how the twin look like with a dashboard on the side that is activated by users. And in this way, we create a very interactive model informed by also users. Next. These videos are not working, just to be to let you know, it was too heavy to put it in here, but it shows what it is. So it's the 3D modeling is based on cloud data, as you see in that first upper left corner, and then the other square rectangles are representing how you can see particular data set that the users are, choosing to see and see the impact on the built environment, both on a map or even 3D. So the spatial awareness one, for example, those colors, red, orange, yellow, green, represent the impact on, I believe, the risk to flooding of each single building. Next. So as I said, just repeating myself, this has the intention to become at a Florida scale in the future years. Next. Oh, thank you. We've been working with all of these entities here, but I'm going to skip this just for the sake of time. Another example comes from a collaboration with the insurance regulation that has funded a project for understanding materiality and housing. Next slide, to be able to having an indexes of materials that are more resilient to disasters. So at the moment, a lot of criteria are based on just a few elements like roof, the assemblies, roof walls, but this wants to be way more into the materiality, so the materials of walls, the finishes, in a way that will become pushing the level of resiliency of our homes higher. Next. In terms of design as a service, so as a college, we of course our educational offers are based on design. We do a lot of studios. Studios are those classes where students design either an urban scale or architecture scale. And one of our focus is to put that in a way that we can actually create collaboration between this student work with communities. Next. One example is this Port St. Joe work. Next. I'll try to go fast in this one. This was a 2 years project. Partially was creating one of these design course that produce actually an installation in Port St. Joe, and the other was the creation of a dashboard to at the next just for the services of certain local organization. This is the project we realized in collaboration with students. Next. Next. And this is the work we have been doing to create a dashboard for the use of local organization working on housing remodeling and disaster reconstruction. Next, I cannot show much of this as it is sensitive, but I can show you the structure. So we were able to draw using machine learning the data from the appraisal, and so we were able to extract all the information from the appraisal in terms of housing, infrastructure of the housing, vacancies, land use and valuation. Next. To create this dashboard that, as you see now, it's empty, just because I can't show the data, but it has all those layers on the left side to be able to populate that map and see what's going on. And that will be informative for those organizations working at the place level that needs to know where to go, how to outreach certain people rather than others in order to offer their services. Okay, next. Next, another example in terms of design comes from this Cedar Key Resilience Plan. This was funded by all the sponsors above, FDEP, NASEM, the collaboratory, just to name a few, and in collaboration with a lot of project partners. This specific project, next, was a research project on one side, but also a studio class on the other. We created first a resilience, a vulnerability assessment plan, next, and that produced showcase certain areas of concern and intervention. Next. If you click on this website, you will be able to see a model of Cedar Key and all the vulnerability assessment related to that. Next. That you see here. So you're able to show and see the impact of a category 1, for example, or 5 on the space environment. Next. Oh, sorry. If you go back, I want to show you something else. Let's see if it goes. If you click there, yes, it should start the page. Okay, and you'll see also on the top, you can choose between housing, transportation, critical infrastructure, community services, natural and cultural assets, and local economy, to understand where the impacts are on those kind of intervention. Okay, so we can go next. You can, of course, explore this tool whenever you want. Is open to the public. A lot of our work within this project, but also all the other projects we do, it's very community-based, because I said it's place-based, so we do a lot of community engagement. You see here the tool that you just reviewed being presented at a community workshop, and how people were, interacting with that. And that is for, obviously we really believe that you need the input of residents or stakeholders at large to local government to be able to produce a good design that is responsive and will lead to a good place to live. Next. Okay, this is enter into the solutions offered for Cedar Key, so I'm not diving into that, but this comes out of this series of workshops and working collaboratively with local stakeholders. Next. And these are part of the adaptation plan. So the first part was the vulnerability assessment. The second part was actually offering solutions for the adaptability of Cedar Key. You see some visuals, some designs. One of the solutions was, moving the city hall into another location, and there's also other adaptation solution. Next. Next. That also impacted the new CRA, the Community Development Plan of Cedar Key. So all that work done influenced a new plan for the CRA. Next. Okay, for the last part, the education component, I bring a few examples. Next. Gulf South Studio is an interdisciplinary studio that want to put together different students from different disciplines, landscape architecture and architecture, for instance, working at the urban scale, both of them. Next. We've been working in different places so far. Cedar Key was one, Cape Coral, I believe, was another one. Yeah, it's right there. Fort Myers as well, Matlacha. So recreating a digital twin for this design class situation, always working with the community, so always collaborating and bringing the community within this educational setting. Next. And these are the places that we've been working on. Currently, they're working in Punta Gorda, as you see there, spring 2026. Next. And some picture from these courses from the past. Next. Another example from this idea of growing knowledge together with communities is this initiative called Urban Futures. This was done last year and is going to be repeated this year. So next. This is actually a workshop that was done with local communities. Last year, these were the 4 towns selected. This year, there will be another workshop with different sets of towns, potentially 6 or more. The idea next was to, I'm going to scroll over this initial set of slides. So next, the idea to offer a possibility of connection between research and small communities that usually has fewer resources to be able to achieve resilience adaptation plans. Next. And next. And so that's why we decided to go for this kind of initiative. We did have a call. We work in a way that we start having site visit with the towns that are choosing to work with us, developing case studies with them, and then next, maybe there's more information, yes. And developing an initial spatial analysis just to contextualizing the workshop. Next. Well, this is just some comment from people participating. Next. The spatial analysis I'm mentioning, this is kind of makes me think at the slide that David showed earlier about the food system. And we work, in a similar way, although we are analyzing the built environment, right, and how it is impacted by different level, like the heat or flooding. Next. Next, this is just the agenda. We are putting together on the workshop research expertise from our college, from our center, from our college and UF in general, and the towns that we're mentioning to really work on an initial scenario planning workshop, like trying to envision and find understanding problems and potentially how to move forward from them. Next. This produced a series of understanding of the needs, but also, I don't think I have a next slide, please. No, I don't have the impact, but it also produced a series of impacts in terms of collaboration. So after that workshop, that has the main goal to produce a line for collaborative grant writing, so putting together again research at the spatial level with the communities. Impacts on we had a different work done at St. Pete's Beach and Perry and Crystal River currently now. Last example from the GROW activity is GatorCore. GatorCore is an American program we have at Fiber where we really want to create an outreach component, bringing research to communities. We'll do that by different means next. There's some pictures, I guess, of all the organizations we work with. There's a component at Fiber where we deliver educational clubs for elementary and middle school students, but also working with organizations like you see here, Hersta Farm and Market in Jacksonville, Mission the Dirty Road, the Dirt Road in Keystone Heights, just to mention two, where we really work on the field. Our members are working on the field to deliver resilience workshop and capacity building to those organizations. Next. So this is just an overview of what we do. Next. We are moving to a new location here, so we will really very well suited very soon to host a workshop, and we do have a lot of technology lab moved in as well, so everything will be conveniently very close. And with that, I think I mentioned everything. Next, probably there is a thank you slide. Yep. So if you need to follow up, that's the email and also a QR code with our website for more info. Thank you, and thank you also for inviting me to the organizers.
Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you to our presenters, and we apologize for running a little over time. We'll be sure to follow up if the presenters are okay with us sharing the presentations, and any questions we will send their way or connect you to them. Our next resiliency webinar is scheduled for March 25th, and we'll send out the details for that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.